You are walking on a brain. Beneath every step you take in a forest, there are miles of electrical connections processing information. We think of them as vegetables, but biologically, fungi are closer to you than they are to a plant. They breathe oxygen like us, they digest food like us, and they rule this planet in silence. This is the story of the organisms that digest death to create life. They are the hidden architects of the earth. Before animals crawled out of the ocean, before plants conquered the land, fungi were here. They broke down the rock to create the first soil. They terraformed the planet for us. Yet, we treat them as a garnish on a pizza. We are about to learn that we are merely guests in their kingdom. If the earth has a consciousness, it is fungal. The largest living organism on Earth is not the blue whale. It is not the sequoia tree. It is a single honey mushroom in Oregon. It covers nearly 4 square miles and is thousands of years old. It is a sprawling, silent giant living just a few inches beneath your boots. It has been expanding, eating, and growing since before the Ramang Empire fell. This massive entity challenges our definition of an individual. It is not one mushroom. The mushrooms are just the fruit, like apples on a tree. The real organism is the mycelium, the vast white, cobweb-like network underground. It is a decentralized intelligence. It has no brain, yet it solves complex mathematical problems of resource distribution better than our supercomputers. Scientists call this network the Wood Wide Web. Trees are not solitary individuals fighting for sunlight. They are a community connected by fungal cables. Through this fungal internet, trees share resources. A birch tree with extra sugar will send carbon to a shaded fir tree that is starving. The fungus acts as the courier, physically moving the nutrients from one root system to another. But why? Is the fungus altruistic? No, the fungus is a capitalist. It charges a transaction fee. In exchange for transporting minerals like phosphorus and nitrogen that the tree cannot reach, the fungus takes a cut of the sugar the tree produces from sunlight. It is a global trade economy that has been running without a stock market crash for 400 million years. This network carries more than just food. It carries information. If a beetle attacks a tree on one side of the forest, that tree releases chemical distress signals into the fungal network. The neighboring trees receive this email and immediately begin producing toxic chemicals to repel the beetle, even before they are attacked. The fungus is the fiber optic cable of the forest's immune system. This changes how we look at nature. A forest is not a collection of trees. It is a single superorganism wired together by fungi. If you cut the fungal network, the forest goes blind. The trees become isolated, deaf, and vulnerable. The resilience of the biosphere depends entirely on these fragile, microscopic threads that most of us tear apart when we dig in our gardens. Fungal intelligence is alien to us because it has no center. If you cut off a human's head, they die. If you cut a piece of mycelium, it becomes 2 new networks. In a famous experiment, Japanese scientists placed oat flakes in the pattern of Tokyo's cities and let a slime mold grow. Within hours, the mold recreated the entire Tokyo subway system. It found the most efficient routes mathematically possible. It did this without a single neuron. It did this without eyes. It thought with its entire body. This suggests that intelligence is not a property of a brain, but a property of networks. Fungi are the original network engineers. We are just now learning to copy their designs for our transport systems and our internet algorithms. They solved the traveling salesman problem a billion years ago. There was a time when fungi were the giants. 400 million years ago, the landscape was dominated by prototaxites, massive 8-meter-tall pillars of fungus. Trees did not exist yet. If you were a time traveler walking the earth then, you would be walking through a forest of phallic, towering mushrooms. They were the rulers of the land before plants figured out how to grow wood. Why did they shrink? Evolution favored partnership. As plants evolved complex roots and wood lignin, fungi realized it was more profitable to go underground and trade with them than to compete with them for height. They chose to become the shadow government of the biosphere, unseen, but controlling the flow of resources from below. But their most critical role is not connection. It is destruction. Fungi are the digestive tract of the planet. They are the only things capable of breaking down lignin, wood, and tough organic matter effectively. Without fungi, dead trees and animals would pile up for miles. The forest would choke on its own dead. Fungi unlock the nutrients trapped in death and return them to the soil. This is the paradox of the mushroom. It eats death to create life. Every atom in your body was once part of a rock, a plant, or a star, recycled thousands of times. Fungi are the recyclers. They ensure that the cycle of matter never stops. They are the gatekeepers between the living and the dead. In their kingdom, there is no waste, only transformation. Their resilience is terrifying. Fungal spores have been found in the stratosphere. They can survive the intense radiation of space. Some species thrive inside the ruined nuclear reactor at Chernobyl, literally eating radiation for energy. This has led some astrobiologists to propose Panspermia, the idea that fungi might not have originated on Earth. Could spores travel on meteors, seeding life across the galaxy? Their ability to hibernate for thousands of years in a vacuum suggests they are built for interstellar travel. Perhaps the mycelial network is not just a terrestrial concept. Perhaps we are looking at a universal biological constant. The first astronaut on a new planet might not be a human, but a spore. They also have senses we are just discovering. Fungi can sense gravity. They can sense light. They can sense the texture of the surface they are growing on. Recent studies show they might even use electrical language. Scientists have recorded spikes of electrical activity in mushrooms that resemble human speech patterns. Are they talking to each other? If they are talking, what are they saying? Are they discussing the weather, the nutrient levels, or are they discussing us? We plow their networks, we poison their soil, we burn their forests. If the Earth has an immune system managed by fungi, humanity might be looking increasingly like a pathogen that needs to be corrected. So far, we have seen fungi as connectors and recyclers, benevolent partners. But there is a darker side to this intelligence. When a fungus needs to spread, it doesn't always ask for permission. Sometimes it takes control. It hijacks the nervous system of a host and turns it into a vehicle. This is where the story shifts from symbiosis to parasitism. Deep in the tropical rainforests, a spore lands on an unsuspecting ant. It doesn't kill the ant immediately. Instead, it begins to grow inside its body, dissolving its muscles and rewiring its brain. The ant is no longer an individual. It is becoming a passenger in its own body. Once inside, the fungus does not attack the brain directly. It wraps itself around the muscle fibers. It literally cuts the connection between the ant's brain and its legs. The ant is still conscious, trapped inside its own body, but the fungus is now driving the car. It is a biological hijacking. The fungus releases a cocktail of chemicals that mimic the ant's own neurotransmitters, forcing it to march against its will. This chemical cocktail is precise. It is not random twitching. The fungus forces the ant to leave the safety of its colony. It navigates the host to a very specific microclimate, usually about 25 centimeters above the forest floor, on the underside of a leaf facing north. This spot has the perfect humidity and temperature for the fungus to reproduce. The ant is just a taxi service to the delivery zone. When the ant reaches the designated spot, the fungus executes the final command, the death grip. The ant bites down on the main vein of the leaf with incredible force. Simultaneously, the fungus causes the jaw muscles to atrophy and lock. This is not just a bite, it is a permanent anchor. Even after death, the ant will not fall. It is locked in place to serve as a launch pad. Once the anchor is secure, the fungus no longer needs the host. It kills the ant instantly. The struggle is over. But for the fungus, the real work is just beginning. It begins to consume the ant's internal organs, turning the soft tissue into structural reinforcement for the stalk that is about to erupt. The exoskeleton remains intact, a hollow coffin protecting the growing monster inside. Over the next few days, a long, slender stalk bursts through the back of the ant's head. It grows slowly, nourished by the nutrients harvested from the corpse. At the tip of this stalk, a capsule forms, filled with deadly spores. This is why the fungus forced the ant to climb. Altitude matters. From this vantage point, the spores can be dispersed over a much wider area than from the ground. Below the leaf, the ant's colony continues to forage, unaware of the sniper positioned above them. When the capsule bursts, it rains microscopic spores down onto the trails used by the ant sisters. This creates a kill zone. Any ant that walks through this invisible rain will be infected, restarting the cycle. One infected ant can doom an entire colony if left unchecked. However, the ants are not helpless. Evolution is an arms race. The colony has developed social immunity. Worker ants constantly scan each other for signs of infection. If they detect the scent of the fungus on a sister, they will physically drag her away from the colony and dump her far away in the ant graveyard. It is a brutal, calculated quarantine. They sacrifice the individual to save the collective. This war has been raging for millions of years. The fungus evolves a better disguise. The ants evolve better detection. Fossils from 48 million years ago show leaf bite marks identical to the death grip, proving that this puppetry is ancient. It is a stalemate between a hive mind and a fungal mind, both fighting for dominance over the biomass of the forest floor. Ants are not the only victims. In the Amazon, you can find spiders that look like fuzzy marshmallows. They have been consumed by Torubiella. Unlike the precise control of the ant fungus, this one is a brute. It simply enclases the spider in a white tomb while it is still in its web. The web, designed to catch prey, becomes a display case for the fungus, catching the wind to spread spores. There are thousands of species of Cordyceps, each specialized to hunt a specific insect. There is one for wasps, one for moths, one for beetles. It is nature's population control mechanism. Without these fungi, insect populations would explode and strip the planet bare. The horror of the individual is necessary for the health of the ecosystem. The monster is also the gardener. Perhaps the most horrifying example is Spore, the fungus that hunts cicadas. It eats the cicada's abdomen, genitals, and buttocks, replacing them with a plug of white spores. Yet, the cicada does not die. It doesn't even slow down. The fungus pumps the host full of psilocybin, magic mushrooms, and amphetamines, speed. The cicada becomes a hyperactive, drug-fueled zombie. It is called the flying salt shaker of death. As the cicada flies, its missing bottom scatters spores everywhere. The fungus also hijacks the mating drive. It forces infected males to flick their wings like females, attracting other males. When the healthy male tries to mate, he is not greeting the female. He is contracting a death sentence. It is a sexually transmitted parasite that uses lust as a vector. The use of psychoactive drugs is key. The fungus is a master chemist. It produces compounds that suppress appetite and pain while stimulating energy. The infected host feels better than a healthy one, right up until the moment it falls apart. This suggests that the fungus understands the insect brain's reward system intimately. It is hacking the dopamine pathways to ensure compliance. This chemical mastery raises a disturbing question. If fungi can produce psilocybin to control insect behavior, is the hallucinogenic effect of magic mushrooms on humans an accident? Or is it a defense mechanism? Or perhaps a form of communication we simply misinterpret as a trip? We ingest the fungus to see God, but the insect ingests it and sees orders. Walking through a dense jungle is walking through a graveyard of puppets. If you look closely at the undersides of leaves, you will see the gallery of the dead. Beetles clapping onto twigs, moths frozen with wings open, flies stuck to glass. It is a silent holocaust that happens every day, unseen by us. The fungus is the apex predator here, but it never takes a bite. It grows from within. The terrifying efficiency of this system relies on the simplicity of the host. Insects have simple nervous systems. Their behavior is hard-coded. Go to light, find mate, eat leaf. The fungus just rewrites a few lines of this code. But what happens when the target is more complex? What happens when the target has a neocortex, an immune system, and a high body temperature? Mammals have a secret weapon against this fungal invasion: heat. Most fungi cannot survive above 34 degrees Celsius. Our body temperature of 37 degrees is not just for metabolism. It is a thermal firewall. It creates a restricted zone that keeps the puppet masters out. This is why we get skin fungus, athlete's foot, but not brain fungus. Our skin is cool enough, but our core is too hot. Reptiles and amphibians, which are cold-blooded, are much more vulnerable. But we burn fuel constantly to maintain this fever. We pay a high caloric price to stay warm, primarily to keep the mold out of our blood. But this firewall is not invincible. It relies on the environment staying cooler than our body is. It relies on the fungus staying intolerant to heat. The climate is changing. The world is getting hotter. As the globe warms, fungi are being forced to adapt to higher temperatures to survive in the wild. Evolution is selecting for heat-resistant strains. Candida auris, a deadly fungus that has recently emerged in hospitals. is believed to be the first pathogen that learned to tolerate human body heat because of climate change. The thermal gap between the forest and the human body is shrinking. The firewall is getting thinner. If a Cordyceps species evolved to tolerate 37 degrees, our complex brains would not be a barrier, they would be a feast. The chemical pathways for dopamine and serotonin are the same in ants and humans. The lock is the same. The fungus just needs to survive the heat to turn the key. The thermal barrier is already breached. In 2009, doctors in Japan discovered a new yeast in the ear of a patient. They called it Candida auris. Unlike other yeasts, this one was armored. It was resistant to all three major classes of antifungal drugs. It spread through hospitals like a phantom, colonizing walls, beds, and skin. It is the first globally emerging fungal pathogen driven by climate adaptation. It kills up to 60% of the people it infects within 90 days. It creates a biofilm, a slimy shield that makes it invisible to the immune system and impervious to bleach. Once it enters a hospital, it is nearly impossible to eradicate. In some cases, hospitals have had to rip out ceiling tiles and floorboards to stop the spread. The fungus is not just visiting, it is moving in. The terrifying reality of fungal infection is that we have very few weapons against it. Bacteria are different from us, so antibiotics target them easily. But fungal cells are eukaryotic, just like human cells. Their DNA machinery is dangerously similar to ours. Developing a drug that kills the fungus without killing the human is a biochemical nightmare. We are trying to poison a cousin without poisoning ourselves. This biological similarity is why fungal diseases are often chronic and fatal. As we rely more on immunosuppressive drugs for transplants and cancer treatments, we are creating a population of vulnerable hosts. We are lowering the castle drawbridge, just as the enemy is learning to swim across the moat. The golden age of medicine might be ended not by a virus, but by a mold. But the fungal war on humanity is not new. It has shaped our history in ways we are just beginning to understand. In the Middle Ages, entire villages would suddenly go mad. People would dance in the streets until they collapsed. They would suffer from hallucinations, convulsions, and the sensation that their skin was on fire. They called it St. Anthony's fire. We call it ergotism. The culprit was Claviceps purpurea, a fungus that grows on rye. When the weather was damp, the fungus infected the grain, turning it into black spurs called ergot. The peasants, unaware, ground this infected rye into flour and baked bread. They were mass poisoning themselves with a potent cocktail of mycotoxins every single day. The daily bread was a daily dose of madness. Ergot has two forms. The first is gangrenous. The fungus constricts the blood vessels in the extremities. Fingers, toes, and even arms would turn black, shrivel, and fall off without bleeding. It was a slow, painless amputation performed by bread. Victims would watch their own bodies disintegrate while fully conscious, believing they were being punished by God for their sins. The second form is convulsive. It targets the nervous system. Victims would twist into impossible shapes, screaming in agony. This brings us to one of the darkest chapters in American history. The Salem witch trials of 1692. Young girls in Massachusetts began to have fits, screaming about invisible specters pinching them. They accused their neighbors of witchcraft, leading to 20 executions. Historians now believe the witches of Salem were innocent. The year 1691 was unusually wet, perfect conditions for ergot to grow. On the rye fields of Salem, the symptoms described by the accuser's crawling skin, visions, muscle spasms are a textbook match for ergot poisoning. The town wasn't under attack by the devil. It was under attack by a fungus on their breakfast table. This reveals the terrifying power of the fungus. It didn't just kill people, it altered their reality. It created mass hysteria that destroyed a community's social fabric. It turned neighbor against neighbor. The fungus acted as a psychotropic weapon, proving that reality is just a chemical construct that can be rewritten by a microscopic spore found on a blade of grass. Yet, from this horror came a revolution. In 1938, a Swiss chemist named Albert Hofmann was studying ergot to find a cure for migraines. He isolated a specific compound, lysergic acid diethylamide. He accidentally absorbed a small amount through his fingertips. As he rode his bicycle home, the world melted. He had discovered LSD to 25. The fungus had just handed humanity the keys to the subconscious. Hofmann called LSD medicine for the soul. He realized that the same fungus that caused the Salem witch hunts could, in a controlled dose, induce mystical experiences and dissolve the ego. It was the ultimate duality, poison and cure. The fungus contains the chemistry of both heaven and hell. It essentially forced the Western world to acknowledge the existence of altered states of consciousness. This relationship goes back even further. The stoned ape theory suggests that early hominids might have jump-started their brain evolution by consuming psilocybin, mushrooms on the African savanna. The theory argues that the psychedelic experience shattered old cognitive patterns, forcing the brain to form new connections, leading to language, art, and religion. While controversial, it highlights a profound truth. Fungi have likely been tinkering with our neurotransmitters for millions of years. We co-evolved with them. Our serotonin receptors, the locks that control our mood and perception, are perfectly shaped to accept the fungal keys. We are chemically wired to interact with this intelligence. But let's return to the threat. While we experiment with their magic, they are experimenting with our biology. Cryptococcus is another fungal predator. It lives in pigeon droppings and eucalyptus trees. When inhaled, it doesn't stay in the lungs. It has a specific affinity for the central nervous system. It creates a gelatinous capsule that allows it to slide through the blood-brain barrier. Once inside the brain, it causes fungal meningitis. The pressure builds until the brain is crushed against the skull. It is responsible for 15% of all age-related deaths globally. It reminds us that every breath we take contains spores. We inhale between 1,000 and 10 billion spores daily. Our immune system is fighting a silent war every second of our lives. The fear among epidemiologists is not just a new virus, but a fungal superbug. We have no vaccine for fungi. We have very few drugs. And unlike viruses, fungi can survive outside the host for years. If a deadly fungus evolved to spread through the air like the flu, it would be a civilization-ending event. The Last of Us scenario is scientifically plausible, even if the zombies are fictional. The mechanism is already there. We see it in bats, white nose syndrome, and frogs, chytrid fungus, where entire species are being wiped out by fungal pathogens. The jump to humans requires only a small genetic mutation and a slightly warmer planet. We are turning up the thermostat, inviting the monsters to come out of the cold. Yet, in this dance of death, there's also potential for salvation. The same chemical mastery that allows fungi to hijack insects or poison witches can be used to heal. We use penicillin, a fungus, to kill bacteria. We use cyclosporine, a fungus, to stop organ rejection. The fungal pharmacopoeia is vast and mostly unexplored. We are racing to read the library before it burns down. The fungus is neither good nor evil. It is an agent of change. It forces systems to evolve or die. Whether it is breaking down a dead tree, dissolving a plastic bottle, or rewiring a human brain, its goal is always transformation. In the next chapter, we will explore this magic. How are modern scientists using the flesh of the gods to treat depression and fear of death? The difference between a poison and a cure is often just the dose, but with psilocybin, the difference is structural. The molecule found in magic mushrooms is nearly identical to serotonin, the neurotransmitter that regulates our mood, sleep, and perception. The fungus has evolved a chemical key that fits perfectly into the lock of the human mind. It doesn't break the door, it opens it. When you ingest the fungus, it navigates to the 5-HT2A receptors in your brain. These are the command centers for perception. Unlike alcohol, which numbs the brain, or cocaine, which speeds it up, psilocybin hyperconnects it. It creates a temporary superhighway of information. Parts of the brain that haven't spoken to each other since childhood suddenly start a conversation. Its primary target is the default mode network, DMN. This is the CEO of your brain. It maintains your ego, your self-identity, and your daily narrative. It is the voice that says, "I am me, and I am separate from the world." Psilocybin shuts this manager down. This leads to ego death. The boundary between you and the universe dissolves. You don't just see the forest. You feel like you are the forest. For a depressed person, the DMN is a tyrant. It runs a loop of negative thoughts. I am worthless. I am sad. By temporarily silencing this network, the fungus breaks the loop. It is like rebooting a frozen computer. When the system comes back online, the rigid patterns of depression are loosened. The snow in the snow globe has been shaken, allowing for a fresh pattern to settle. This reboot is showing incredible promise in treating the incurable. Terminal cancer patients, paralyzed by the fear of death, are given a single high dose in clinical trials. They report meeting an entity often described as a benevolent, fungal intelligence that shows them that death is not the end, but a transition. They return with their anxiety statistically eliminated. It is not a numbing agent, it is a confrontation. The patient faces their trauma directly, but without the fear response. The fungus acts as a guide, holding the patient's hand while they walk through the haunted house of their own mind. It suggests that the mystical experience is not a hallucination, but a biological function we have suppressed for centuries. This brings us back to the stoned ape theory. Terence McKenna argued that this hyperconnectivity was the spark for human language. Psilocybin induces synesthesia, a crossing of the senses. You can see sounds and hear colors. McKenna suggested that early humans, under the influence, started using vocal sounds to describe visual images, inventing words. If true, it means our entire culture, our language, our art, our religion is a byproduct of a symbiotic relationship with a mushroom. We didn't conquer the fungus, The fungus upgraded us. It gave us the software update we needed to survive the harsh African savanna. We are the ape that found the magic fruit and never looked back. But it's not just about hallucinations. It is physical. Recent studies show that compounds in mushrooms, specifically psilocybin and lion's mane, trigger neurogenesis. They actually cause neurons to grow and repair. They stimulate the production of nerve growth factor, NGF. The fungus is physically rebuilding the hardware of the brain, repairing damage from stress or rage. This is revolutionary. For decades, we believed the adult brain couldn't grow new cells. The fungus proves otherwise. It suggests that dementia, Alzheimer's, and PTSD are not permanent sentences. We are looking at a future where we take fungal supplements not to trip, but to keep our cognitive hard drives from corrupting as we age. So, if this organism is so beneficial, why is it illegal in most of the world? Why did we declare war on a mushroom? The answer might be political, not medical. In the 1960s, the counterculture movement used psychedelics to question authority, war, and consumerism. The fungus dissolves cultural programming. It makes you question why you work 9 to 5. A society built on rigid hierarchies and obedient workers cannot function if everyone realizes they are one with the universe. The ban was not about public safety. It was about public control. We criminalized the waking up process. But the fungus is patient. It went underground, just like its mycelium, waiting for the political climate to change. And now the spring is here. We must not forget that the most important medicine in history is also fungal. In 1928, Alexander Fleming returned from vacation to find a mold killing his bacteria cultures. That mold was penicillium. Before penicillin, a scratch from a rose thorn could kill you. The fungus gave us the weapon to win the war against bacteria. It doubled the human lifespan overnight. This was chemical warfare. Fungi and bacteria have been fighting for territory for 1 billion years. Fungi invented antibiotics to protect their food. We simply stole their ammunition. Every time you take an antibiotic, you are using a fungal weapon to defend your body. We are alive today only because we allied with the mold. The future of medicine is fungal. We are discovering species that produce compounds for everything from cholesterol lowering. Statins come from fungi to immunosuppressants. There are estimated to be 5 million species of fungi, and we have cataloged less than 5%. The cure for cancer, or the next supervirus, is likely hiding in a patch of soil in the Amazon right now. We are racing against time. As we destroy the rainforests, we are burning the pharmacy before we have read the labels. We are driving species extinct that could have saved us. The puppet master has many gifts, but it only shares them if we leave its habitat intact. If we kill the host, we kill the cure. The relationship is shifting. We are moving from mycophobia, fear of mushrooms, to mycophilia, love of mushrooms. We are beginning to understand that we are not separate from this network. We are walking bags of water and carbon, temporarily organized, destined to be recycled by the very thing we fear. The fungus is waiting for us at the end of the line. But before we die, the fungus might save the world we live in. We have talked about how they control insects and humans, but their greatest power is micromediation. They can eat things that nothing else can. They can eat our mistakes. We have poisoned the earth with plastic, oil, and radiation. We have created materials that nature cannot digest. Or so we thought. In the Amazon, we found a fungus that eats polyurethane plastic. In Chernobyl, we found a fungus that eats radiation. The puppet master is also the janitor. We will explore the savior. Can we train mushrooms to eat our trash, clean our oil spills, and maybe even build our houses? We are entering the age of fungal technology. The future is not steel. It is mycelium. We have treated the earth like a disposable product. We wrapped it in plastic, soaked it in oil, and irradiated it. We created a mess so toxic that we assumed it was permanent. But the puppet master has a different plan. It sees our trash not as a disaster, but as a menu. This is mycoremediation. It is the science of using fungi to strip toxins from the environment and turn them into life. Fungi are the external stomach of the planet. They excrete enzymes that digest complex bonds. When we spill crude oil, we see a catastrophe. The oyster mushroom sees a hydrocarbon feast. In experiments, piles of soil saturated with diesel were inoculated with mycelium. Within weeks, the mushrooms broke down the oil, turning the toxic black sludge into rich, clean soil where plants could grow. But the real miracle was found in the Ecuadorian Amazon. Students discovered a fungus called Psilocybin microspora. This quiet organism has a superpower. It eats polyurethane. It can survive on a diet of pure plastic, even in an airless landfill. It breaks down the molecular bonds of the plastic that we thought would last for 10,000 years and converts it into organic matter. This changes the timeline of the Anthropocene. We are currently drowning in plastic waste, but if we can harness this enzyme on an industrial scale, we could build fungal bioreactors. We could feed our garbage patches to the fungus. The creature that haunts our nightmares might be the only thing capable of eating our mortal sins. It is nature's way of saying, I can digest even this. The appetite of the fungus extends even to the invisible fire of radiation. Inside the ruined reactor number 4 at Chernobyl, robots found black mold growing on the walls right in the lethal zone. This is Cryptococcus neoformans. It uses melanin, the same pigment in human skin, to capture gamma radiation and convert it into chemical energy. It is performing radiosynthesis. Just as plants use chlorophyll to eat sunlight, these fungi use melanin to eat radiation. This discovery has profound implications. If we can shield our spacecraft or our moon bases with layers of this fungus, we could protect astronauts from cosmic rays. We could use it to clean up nuclear waste sites. The fungus thrives where humans die. It turns our deadliest mistakes into breakfast. If they can eat our trash, can they also build our future? We are entering the age of Mycotecture. We typically build by baking bricks or pouring concrete, which releases massive amounts of CO2. But mycelium grows bricks. By packing agricultural waste, like corn stalks, into a mold and adding spores, we can grow a solid, fire-resistant, and concrete-strong brick in 5 days. This is carbon-negative construction. You don't burn fuel to make it. The brick literally grows itself at room temperature. When the building is demolished in 50 years, you don't send the rubble to a landfill. You crush it and feed it to the garden. It is a building that acts like a biological organism. It breathes, it insulates, and eventually it returns to the earth. The fashion industry is also bowing to the mushroom. Leather requires raising a cow for years, stripping its skin, and tanning it with toxic chemicals. Milo, or mushroom leather, is grown in vertical farms in weeks. It mimics the interwoven structure of collagen found in animal skin. It is durable, customizable, and cruelty-free. Major luxury brands are already switching to fungal fabrics. We are seeing a shift from petrochemicals to fungichemicals. We are replacing styrofoam packaging with mycelium foam. IKEA and Dell are already using it. The white stuff protecting your new computer is made of mushroom roots. We are slowly replacing the dead toxic skin of our civilization with a living, breathing interface derived from the forest floor. This technology might be our ticket to the stars. NASA is currently researching microarchitecture for Mars. Carrying tons of steel to Mars is too heavy and expensive. But carrying a bag of spores weighs nothing. Once on the red planet, astronauts could unfold a lightweight frame, add Martian dust and water, and inject the spores. The habitat would grow itself. It would be a living house. The fungal walls could shield against radiation using the Charnoyer trick, insulate against the cold, and perhaps even produce oxygen. We wouldn't be invading Mars with dead metal. We would be planting a seed of Earth. We would be bringing the invisible skeleton of our home planet to build a new one on a dead world. The merger goes deeper than bricks. We are exploring fungal computing. We know mycelium transmits electrical signals. Scientists in the UK have successfully used fungal mats to process binary data. It is slow compared to silicon, but it is self-repairing. If a wire breaks in your computer, it stays broken. If a fungal connection breaks, it regrows. Imagine a motherboard that heals itself. Imagine sensors in the environment that are powered by the soil and transmit data through the fungal network. We are moving towards living technology. We are attempting to download the intelligence of the forest into our machines. We are building a nervous system for our technology that mimics the one beneath our feet. This brings us to a humbling realization. We thought we were the masters of technology, but we are just reinventing the wheel. The fungus invented the internet, mycelium, the armor, chitin, the chemical weapon, penicillin, and the solar panel, radiosynthesis, millions of years ago. We are not the inventors. We are the students. And we are late to class. The savior is not a high-tech machine we will build in a lab. The savior has been under our feet the whole time, waiting for us to stop pouring concrete over it. The solution to the Anthropocene is to partner with the organism that survived the asteroid. We need to sign a peace treaty with the mold. There's a poetic irony in the shape of a mushroom cloud. The symbol of our ultimate destruction looks exactly like the symbol of ultimate rebirth. When we detonate a nuke, we mimic the shape of the fungus, but the nuke leaves a wasteland. The fungus leaves a forest. One is the power of death. The other is the power of digestion and renewal. If we destroy ourselves, the fungus will be the first to reclaim the ruins. It will eat the plastic. It will eat the radiation. It will eat the last human bone. And then it will start the cycle again. It is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. It is the patient gardener who knows that every empire eventually becomes compost. We have seen the horror of the zombie ant. We have seen the magic of the Psilocybin trip. We have seen the hope of the plastic eater. The fungus is all of these things. It is a mirror reflecting our own duality. It can be a parasite or a partner. The choice of which face it shows us is ours. But this biological perfection raises a haunting question. An organism that eats radiation, survives the vacuum of space, and communicates through electrical networks seems almost too advanced for this mudball. Perhaps we have been scanning the stars for alien intelligence, ignoring the fact that the aliens have been farming us for millions of years. This concept is known as lithopanspermia. It proposes that life did not originate on Earth, but hitchhiked here on rocks. Fungal spores are the perfect astronauts. They can shut down their metabolism completely. They create a hard shell that shields their DNA from UV radiation. They can survive the vacuum of space for millions of years. When the meteor hits a wet planet, they simply wake up. If this is true, then fungi are not terrestrial. They are biological terraformers. They arrive on a barren rock, eat the stone, create soil, and release oxygen. They prepare the house before the guests, plants and animals arrive. We might be living on a world that was engineered for us by alien spores billions of years ago. The puppet master might be an interstellar architect. The more we look at the universe, the more it looks like a fungus. Astrophysicists have mapped the cosmic web, the structure of dark matter that holds galaxies together. It consists of vast invisible filaments connecting glowing nodes of galaxies. If you place this map next to a microscope slide of mycelium, they are mathematically identical. The laws of network growth seem to be universal. Is this a coincidence? Or does it suggest that the universe follows a biological blueprint? The Hermetic axiom, as above, so below, rings terrifyingly true here. We are walking on a microscopic version of the cosmos. Or perhaps, the cosmos is just a microscopic version of a fungus. We might be living inside a universe-sized mycelial network, transmitting energy across the void. This changes our understanding of our own purpose. We like to think we are the explorers, the masters of technology who build rockets to conquer Mars. But remember the ant. The ant thought it was climbing the tree for itself. It was actually climbing to spread the spores. What if we are just complex ants? What if our space program is not about human curiosity, but fungal expansion? Fungi cannot build metal rockets. They cannot escape the gravity well of Earth on their own. They need a carrier. They need a species with thumbs, ambition, and technology. Perhaps the stoned ape was given consciousness and intelligence specifically to build the ships that will carry the spores to the next planet. We might be the reproductive organs of the biosphere. This thought dissolves the human ego. We are not the main character. We are a vector. But being a vector is not a bad thing. It implies a partnership. If we accept that we are part of this symbiotic machine, we can stop fighting it. We can enter the Symbiocene, an era where we design our technology, our cities, and our lives to align with the fungal network rather than destroy it. We are currently fighting a war against germs, against mold, against death. We use bleach and concrete to sterilize our world, but this war is unwinnable. The moment we stop scrubbing, the mold returns. It waits in the grout of your shower. It waits in the bread box. It is patient because it knows it has already won. The only sustainable path is surrender and integration. The ultimate surrender is death. In the West, we fear decomposition. We inject our dead with embalming fluids and seal them in steel caskets, trying to deny the fungus its meal. We try to preserve the ego even after the body has failed. But this is a denial of the cycle. To rot is to be reborn. The fungus is the ferryman that takes the atoms of your body and ferries them back into the stream of life. Without fungi, death would be permanent. Matter would be locked in corpses forever. The forest would starve. By eating the dead, the fungus ensures that life can continue. When you die, you don't disappear. You are dismantled and reassembled into a tree, a flower, or a deer. You become the network. The puppet master is actually ensuring your immortality. Many who have taken high doses of psilocybin report the same message. Love. They feel an overwhelming sense of connection to all living things. Maybe this isn't a drug-induced illusion. Maybe, for a few hours, the chemical key unlocks the filter and we feel the actual reality of the network. We feel the electrical pulse that connects the tree to the human to the star. We spend our lives feeling lonely, trapped in the prison of the skull. The fungus offers a key to the cell. It whispers that separation is an illusion. We are individual nodes, yes, but we are running on the same operating system. The grief, the fear, the anger, it all dissolves when you realize you are just a temporary food of a billion-year-old underground tree. If humanity fails, if we nuke ourselves or boil the planet, the fungus will not mourn. It has survived 5 mass extinctions. It will eat our plastic. It will eat our radiation. It will grow over our skyscrapers and turn our libraries into soil. And from that soil, new life will spring. The experiment will continue, perhaps with a species that is less destructive and more symbiotic. But we don't have to disappear. The invisible skeleton we talked about in the dinosaur chapter is resilient, but it needs care. The fungus is offering us the tools to fix the damage. It offers to clean our water, heal our minds, and build our homes. The question is not whether the fungus will survive us. The question is whether we are smart enough to survive with it. So the next time you see a mushroom popping up in your garden after the rain, don't kick it over. Kneel down. Look at it. Realize that you are looking at the tip of an iceberg that spans the planet. Realize that it is breathing the same air as you. Realize that it knows you are there. It is sensing your heat, your vibrations, and your chemical trail. It is the oldest intelligence on Earth. It is the architect of the soil, the master of the mind, and the keeper of the door between life and death. It is the puppet master, but it doesn't want to hurt you. It just wants you to play your part in the great recycling mechanism of the universe. We are not above nature. We are not below nature. We are mycelium. The story of the fungus is the story of connection. In a world that is increasingly divided, perhaps the most radical thing we can do is to learn from the mold. Connect, share resources, recycle, and when the time comes, return to the earth with grace. Thank you for journeying into the undergrowth with Nightlight Science Stories. If you felt the connection, don't break it. Subscribe, and let's keep exploring the dark corners of reality together.